Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Where do I even begin? Might as well go into this game's history. In 1996, Michael A. Stackpole wrote Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron, the first book in the series of X-Wing novels. The book was a pretty big success, and soon a comic book series even spawned from it. Now, in 1993, Factor 5 developed Super Turrican for the Super Nintendo, which caught the eye of Kalani Streicher from LucasArts. Factor 5 president Julian Egbrecht said in an interview, "After he told me that I still owed him $30, Kalani asked us to step into the LucasArts booth and told us that he had played Turrican on the Super NES. He said that was pretty nice and that'd be cool if we made some more games. Then he turned around and said, here are 6 projects, pick one, which game do you want to make?" That resulted in Indiana Jones' Great Adventures for the Super Nintendo, which is known to this day for being one of the few good Indiana Jones games. After that, Factor 5 continued to work on games with LucasArts such as Ball Blazer Champions and the PlayStation version of Rebel Assault 2. Later, Factor 5 wanted to work on a Star Wars project for the Nintendo 64, one that would put you in the major battles in the movies. LucasArts rejected the idea, arguing that several adaptations have been done and there isn't need for any more. Then Factor 5 came across the Rogue Squadron comics and knew what direction they wanted to take. There's more background behind the development process of the game itself, but I really just wanted to get into the game right now. Star Wars Rogue Squadron is best described as a mission-based flight shooter. Some people call it a flight simulator, but if you compare it to things like Wing Commander or X-Wing, the differences are entirely obvious. Similar to Turrican, it has huge levels along with its fair share of hidden secrets. In many of the levels you have multiple objectives to accomplish. The objectives are very straightforward, and if you forget what the objectives are, they're listed at the top of the pause menu. Or if you get lost in the upper right corner of the screen, you'll see a radar. If you have the orange wedge pointed north, you're going in the right direction. The radar is extremely helpful, and you'll definitely be relying on it at one time or another. You also have a variety of fighters to choose from. Each one has their strengths and weaknesses. Plus there's several unlockable ships, like the Millennium Falcon, TIE Interceptor, and the Naboo Starfighter, and this game came out months before the Phantom Menace was even released. However, if you type in Kolsch, the V-Wing is replaced with a flying Buick. That's just awesome! I'm only scratching the surface. There are so many cool secrets in this game. Now, in several of the missions, there's a hidden tech upgrade for your ship somewhere. It's a really good idea to try and find as many of these as you possibly can, because they really come in handy in the later levels. This game also has a great sense of variety, as you'll have different types of mission objectives and environments. At the same time, it has a lot of focus on action, so it's really hard to get bored playing this game. In fact, the game can be very difficult at times. The hardest levels in this game are easily Escape on Fest and Raid on Sullust. Escape on Fest has you protecting 3 small AT-PTs from several AT-AT walkers, tank ambushes, and squads of TIE bombers. Sound easy? It isn't! You'll have to take down the AT-ATs before your friends blow up the gate separating the AT-PTs from the path to the evacuation zone. This means don't screw up. Then by the time the TIE bombers start coming, you'll be too focused on getting rid of all these tanks, and the bombs from the TIE bomber can destroy your AT-PTs with just a few bombs, so you really have to watch out. Raid on Sullust, on the other hand, has a very simple objective. Find all the transmitters and destroy them so you can reach the capacitor above the volcano. Why is this so hard? There are missile turrets everywhere! Thankfully, this game does have a very good difficulty curve, and both of these missions are relatively late in the game. So it's not like you're completely unprepared unless a friend is making you play either one of these missions first as some sick joke. The controls are really good and rather easy to get used to, however it's the graphics that got everyone's attention back in 1998. This is by far one of the best looking games on the Nintendo 64, and it basically redefined hardware. Thomas Engel developed microcodes to push the Nintendo 64 beyond its limits, and therefore this game is practically impossible to emulate. This game also makes use of the expansion pack to increase the Nintendo 64's resolution from 320 by 240 to 640 by 480. For the time, that was really impressive. The music is actually really good. After all, the soundtrack was composed by Chris Hulsbeck. However, this isn't his best work, actually far from it. But songs like Silence and the Hangar theme are extremely memorable, and the theme song is freaking awesome. Plus, this has one of the best ending themes I've heard in the game, along with Turrican 2 and Lair. The acting is something I don't talk about often, but it plays a big role in this game, which is really surprising coming from a Nintendo 64 game. There are actually over 80 minutes of voice acting in this game. I know what you're thinking. How the hell is that even possible? I'll tell you. It's the magic of Factor 5! Seriously though, Factor 5 made their own sound driver and voice compression technology, which will later be used in games like Pokemon Stadium and the Nintendo 64 version of Resident Evil 2. However, the opening cutscenes to some of the missions can be extremely easy to make fun of.
Rogue Squadron, this is General Riken. Rogue Squadron, this is General Riken. Rogue Squadron, this is General Riken.
Rogue Squadron, this is General Riken. Did I mention my name is General Riken? Also, this game has one of the coolest villains ever. Moff Cole Searden. This guy is badass, and also batshit crazy. For example, he destroys his research facility, and what does he do in response? He sends bombers to invade the capital city of his home planet, Chandrilla. Oh, and you just got to love his voice, and his lines for that matter.
Moore? Ah, of course.
Moff Searden.
How pathetic, allying yourself with those rebel criminals, Rogue Squadron. You and your so-called rogues helped in the absconding of my ATTTs and the plundering of my research facility. My retaliation shall be swift and just.
There is nothing just about your actions.
Do you no longer harbor any loyalty to our Emperor? Defecting to the rebel terrorists shall be your undoing, Kason. Unfortunate to lose such a fine officer, but the weak will die off to make room for the strong. It is the way of the universe. Farewell, little rodent.
So freaking awesome.
Coward.
Are there any problems with this game? Well, no game is perfect. My major gripe with this game is how it stretches out near the middle, but the ending levels are just so worth it, you'll hardly care. This is easily my favorite game of all time. Now, before I end this video, I feel I should address the PC version, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3D. This is still a great game, but the Nintendo 64 version is actually much better. How are they different? Well, in the PC version there are less unlockables, more glitches, and the camera drifts off unless you realign it. Hell, in order to use the Buick in this version, you have to download a program called Rogue Car off of a fan site. However, the frame rate is smoother, and the resolution really can be much higher depending on your monitor. Sadly, it doesn't work on Windows Vista 64-bit or any newer version of Windows. If for some reason you can't get the Nintendo 64 version, this is a good alternative, but I'd still recommend getting a Nintendo 64 just to play this game. If you do have a Nintendo 64 and are interested, copies of this game are quite abundant and go for very low prices. I got my cartridge in great condition for only $1.40, so getting this game is really a no-brainer.